Did you know a person with a disability is twice as likely to have cancer as a person without a disability? Today, our guest, Stacey Johnston Gleason, is a person with both an intellectual disability and who's experienced colorectal cancer and survived it. You're not going to want to miss her story. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Talking Health in the 406, where we're one community under the big sky. I'm your host, Jennifer Van Sickle, longtime healthcare worker turned health educator. So, Stace, I guess just to kind of start out with, tell us about yourself. You were raised in Washington.
Yes, I was raised in Washington in a small town called Usk, USK. It's about 65 miles north of Spokane. The school there is Cusick, which is the town next to it. So Usk and Cusick are very small. So in my class, there was probably about 18.
Okay, that is small. That is small. And so you grew up in Washington, and then eventually you did come to Montana, and you told me you were kind of adopted by a family here. Can you tell me about that a little bit?
Yeah, I left Washington after, I was probably, it was 2007. So well into my adulthood, I left Washington State. So, yeah, I met my adopted family in Special Olympics. My adopted mom was my Special Olympics coach. We were actually on the board for Washington Special Olympics together, and we just became friends, and I helped her out.
You met your adopted family through Special Olympics in Washington, and then did they move to Montana? And is that kind of how you ended up here?
Yes, they moved to Montana, and about a year after they moved here, I moved here. Yeah, and so then about, I'd say a year or two after, well, actually it's about, 7, 8, about 4 years after we moved to Montana, they adopted me into their family. Yeah, legally adopted me.
They did.
So, yeah.
And adopted in their hearts long before that, I imagine, from the sounds of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I actually saw an article about an adult woman that was adopted. And so I showed it to them and said, would you guys be interested in this? And they said, well, sir, well, you're already part of our family. But they said, sure. And they did it.
That's neat. So what did that entail then? Is it, I don't know. Can you explain what that process is, or what you guys did?
Well, I'm not sure all of it, because of course they did it, but, it's actually, you do have to go to court. You have to go in front of a judge, and you have to tell them why you want it and stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it's just like an adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, interesting. You don't hear about that very often, but I could see where with a lot of people it would be a good thing, maybe having that be a little more common in our world could result in a lot of goodness. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how old were you when all that happened, Stace?
Oh, it was 2011, and I'm 56 now. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you were definitely an adult, well into your adult years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. You have an interesting history, because then you also faced cancer. Can you tell us about that? What led up to it? How did they find the cancer? What triggered anything that ended up catching it? And tell us about that journey.
So my doctor, who's also a family friend, so she knows how to talk to me and stuff, and she was asking questions to me, and she asked me if I had any blood, in my stool and stuff, and I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, what? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, you do? And she's like, that's not right. And I'm like, I didn't know that. And so she did a colonoscopy. Well, then I had to have, she didn't like the results of it. So she sent me to somebody else to have another one, and he didn't like it. So he sent me to a surgeon. Within like 6 weeks, I had 2 colonoscopies and then surgery, and it ended up being cancer.
Wow.
But they ended up getting it because of her fast response. I ended up having because I went to the surgeon so quickly, it was stage 1.
Okay. And so, how old were you, Stacey, with all that when that happened? Were you in your
48, I think?
48. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I know right now the guidelines are recommending screening for colorectal cancer, which is the colonoscopy between 45 and 75 years old. And so it's so lucky you had that person in your life that knew how to talk to you and could recommend that. Yeah.
Because then it was 50. So I would have been another 2 years.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank heavens.
So, and
I've got some interesting statistics that in Montana, in people 45 and younger, there's 144 new cases of that colorectal cancer found every year. And between people ages just 45 to 49, there's 111. So it's just crazy. And yeah, thank goodness the screening age has dropped to 45, but I'm so glad that you didn't sit there with that for another 2 years. And so did you have to do like chemotherapy or radiation or anything else, or was surgery?
No, I was fortunate that the surgery was enough.
Oh, okay. And did you do all that in Montana? I know you've mentioned in the past about having a long commute to get to your doctor.
Yes, I actually did have all that done in Great Falls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. My surgeon was in Great Falls, and they actually had me do some genetic testing and stuff, but unfortunately I don't know a lot about my family history and stuff because of, I don't know a lot about my family. So I didn't meet my biological father until I was in my late 20s, and he passed away 2 years after I met him. He was an only child, and his parents had passed away before I met him.
Oh, and gosh.
So I really don't know a lot about my family history. So, but they did do some genetic stuff because of having cancer so early. Yeah. Colorectal cancer early.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that. Not, whether it's one side of the parentage or both sides that, it's just a complete unknown. And it's pretty cool that they have those tests that they can do these days to see if you if you're packing that cancer gene or not.
Because my biological mother, she's had breast cancer. She's had both breasts removed, and my biological father died of lung cancer.
Oh, wow. I can see why that doctor wanted to check that. Definitely. Definitely. And are you still in touch with that very first doctor that kind of visited with you about this? Do you still see that person?
I do, but unfortunately they are not going to be practicing after July. So I do need to find a new doctor. And so I'm kind of stressed about that at the moment.
Yeah. It can be hard. It can be hard not only to get in with a medical provider, but to find the right one that clicks well. Yeah, because I've had this one since 2007, and they've actually saved my life a couple of times. I actually was having problems. I couldn't breathe very well. I couldn't walk a block. I was like real lethargic and couldn't walk a block. I couldn't walk up a set of stairs very well, and I was just having quite a bit of problems. And she ended up finding 5 PEs and also a blood clot behind my knee. So she's actually saved me a couple times. So, oh my goodness. Wow. That's
That was pretty
crazy.
scary too.
Yeah. And have you, Stace, had any other issues? I know you have to try and find a new physician now, but have you ever had any other issues trying to find good health care in your life that you've experienced or?
Well, yeah, just like living in Spokane was kind of hard, and living there, trying to find somebody to listen to you and stuff. So I didn't really see the doctor too much there,
Mm-hmm.
it was a little bit more difficult there. But when I did find somebody, I detached a retina back in the day, and then and if it wasn't for the eye doctor that I did have, you just find those certain people, and I mean, I'm lucky to have the vision in the one eye that I do have, that eye that I did detach in, because if I didn't, then didn't have him,
Wow.
I would have lost that vision in that eye.
Stace, you've got one heck of a tough track record there.
Yeah, yeah.
You've been through a lot.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's
well,
tough.
once I find the physicians that do help me, it's like I latch onto them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. The one that you mentioned that helped you catch your colorectal cancer, that talked with you. Can you talk a little bit more about what's been special with that doctor? How that person does talk with you, or what's different? Do they just take extra time, or do
They do. They take extra time, and they took the time to know me as a person, and know how I work, how I don't know, just how I am,
Mm-hmm. Take the time to get to know you as a person,
Yeah.
instead of just
Yeah.
cookie cutter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to pause with Stacey's story right there. But don't worry, she'll be back in our next podcast. And I do want to take a moment to thank Stacey for sharing this information. If you would like more about what you heard today, visit our website at talkinghealthin the406.mt.gov. And thank you for joining us for this episode of Talking Health in the 406, where we're one community under the big sky. Until next time, take care.